Muriithi Njagi, that's my name, startup. The legal entity is SmartPad Enterprises, but the product name is sys.AI. So we've been around, we started ideating with AI around end of 2023. 2024, we got together with Britam under the Beta Lab wing. Around mid-2024 is when we managed to really formalize the relationship and the partnership. So we've been working towards an AI solution to really help with motor processing, processing of claims, especially for the motor industry repairs. Initially starting off with minor damage. We are looking to move into more extensive damage, late 2025, 2026. But yeah, that's really what we aim to do, using AI to improve the way insurance companies process motor claims. So as a background, we are an insurtech, and as a background, we already had a platform to help underwriters work with what we call an ecosystem. So they work with garages, assessors, part suppliers to do claims processing of their motor in a more digital way. Let me call it in a more digital way. We already had that platform. But then the sort of moment of clarity that came to mind was then the thinking that we could actually take it a step further, that 30% of these claims don't need to go through the traditional process. 30% of these claims, you can dispense off with them quicker using AI. And that was really the point that we then said, we really need to explore how we can leverage this new age technology to make it better for everyone. So as I said, one of the areas that really got us started is that we already had a digital platform. Now, what that has helped us is we had the what you'd call customized data for, so you can get AI models in Europe, South Africa, but a lot of their cars are what we would call dealer cars. Toyota, brand new Toyota, they're still under warranty, they're still being repaired under the networks of the dealers. But 85% of cars in Africa are used cars. So even the way the vehicles are repaired, the naming, for example, of the parts, it's different. It's not, you will not get a part number, this and this, when you go to a supplier. You need to have a generic way of naming things, things like, for example, nose cut, front bumper assembly, and things like that. So we already had that data set. So we had a lot of very unique proprietary IP that has allowed us to actually develop this solution. Without that, we would have struggled. And that is data that we had accumulated over 3 to 4 years, really without the thinking of AI, because then the AI buzzword wasn't as big. I started off around COVID time, 2019, 2020. So by the time we were really looking at what can AI do for us, we already had this background data, and that has proved invaluable. Data sets, we have about vehicle naming, about 4,000. We have the part, the make, model code. So Toyota Axio, for example, N141, N142, about 90 to 100,000. So gives us an SKU space of 40 million, which we would not have been able to do this if we didn't have that background data. So what makes us unique is that the solution is customized really for the used car market in Africa. And in other parts of the world as well, where it's not really, you're not really relying on the OEM network. You're looking at this so-called alternative market, which is a huge population of the vehicles. For me, I think what is humbling for us, even before because as I said, we started off with the digital solution, and now we've moved on to AI. And when we first started the idea, I look back and we laugh about it, that we almost faced the kind of resistance a lot of some of these new technologies, the Ubers and the rest faced, whereby there's a lot of resistance when they came in, because it wasn't very easy getting garages and part suppliers who have been used to working with underwriters in a certain way, that now they are going to log into a portal and get work. That now, in case they have an account issue, they will call us to help them. So there was quite an interesting pushback, if I'm to use that word. And one of the large players in the market, some of them had actually said, no, we are not going to do this. And to see them slowly coming back and accepting and saying, look, yeah, this is the new age we are in. I think for us, that was really a humbling moment. It's been a humbling moment every so often because we are now seeing greater and greater acceptance with this. So now we know, we expect another user sensitization with the insureds, because now AI also goes to the insureds. Now you're telling an insured, I have an accident, I don't need to take it to a garage. You know, yeah. So you have two sets. There are those who might see it as an opportunity for fraud, and those who genuinely they have an accident, but they're thinking, what do you mean I don't need to take it to a garage? It has to go to a garage. So we feel, we know we have another 1 or 2 years of sensitization. But really for us, the humbling moment, I wouldn't say really a thump our chest, but humbling, that you see people who were in the industry 10, 15 years before you came in, accepting this idea that you brought in, that it's humbling. But I would say that is more of the win. I think the challenges are slightly different. Because then for you to achieve that, then you have to build. And you're building uncharted items. We are an insurance. We are a tech. We are tech. And you want to build something that a garage can use. So you go and sit down, and I remember some of these things we were doing where you go sit down in the garage and you tell him, tell me how you repair a car. Because you have to understand it. If you don't understand it, you can't build it. So you can't even get to the point of the win where he's denying or accepting your solution if you've not built it. You're not a mechanic, so you don't know how they repair cars and how they look at it in terms of cars. So actually for us, one of the biggest challenges we had was just, you think you have an idea and it's an idea, but then you have to action on it. So you have to go sit down with the garages, go and sit down with the assessors, and you have to ask them, so how do you name these parts? How do you, you know, and then you convert that, and then when you finish that, you have to go and talk to your team, who to a large extent are the younger generation. They've never driven cars. You are trying to explain to them to develop a solution to repair a car. So those were the challenges for us. The challenges to actually come up with something that gains credibility in the industry, and I would say easier said than done. You know, it's one of those journeys you set off on, and 2 years down the line you look back and you're wondering, you question your life choices, as they say. Yes. I think for us, the journey to Startups 360 starts off with our ideation to move to the next level in terms of tech, bringing in AI. Sincere appreciation to Brit and Bitalab for taking us under their wing, and because when you actually now need to move to the next level, it's really one of the things that really helped us, and learnings from experience. We now had what you would call a design partner to work with hand in hand. It was sort of easier, where you now have this person who is both the user at the end of the day, but the person you can ask all the silly questions that you really can't ask a potential client. So that was really helpful, and that's where really our journey to 360 came in. And then through Bitalab and the connection with 360, and we sort of got together with 360. But for us, 360 has been amazing. The sessions they had with us, just in terms of talking to people in the industry, getting us especially to talk to and reach out to the investors, see how they look at it. So 360, as I say, was quite an eye-opener, especially now in terms of the other aspects of looking at a business. Because one of the things we are quite keen on, and also working together with Bitalab, is we are keen on, and this was something very unique of Bitalab, that we are working with them to develop this, but potentially for the wider market, not just for them, which again was very unique. You don't get that kind of partnership where it's actually an industry player helping you develop something, but you're in partnership for the wider market. So just trying to understand what it means to have something that you could potentially scale, both within country, within continent, and maybe beyond. I would say for me, especially on that part, 360 was really an eye-opener. So two things. One, we were able to meet at a global level the tech providers, so Google, Microsoft, AWS, and we use a lot of their technologies. So first connecting with them at that level and just getting a bit of their insights and people that you can then follow up and have conversations in terms of, like for example, Microsoft met some guys from their core engineering team, and you actually come to realize these guys are human. There's a person. There's actually a human behind all this, and they're quite, when you connect to them at that level, they're human, as it were, and they're very clear to say, look, spent a lot of time talking about what we do, and they're like really exciting, happy to give you a bit of consultancy, and they're very clear, look, here's our contacts, reach us. You might not even need to go through the sort of more formal programs because of the costing and all that, but we will help you. You want a bit of consultation here and there, and that was really helpful. And then of course, engaging with investors, potential investors, and hearing from their end, because seated here in, as they say, Africa or Global South, and for people and even ourselves who are doing IT, we think about raising money, VCs and everything. But I must say, one of the things you look at is the way investors look at things. It's different. And when you listen to them and their expectations, you start to think that you need to a bit different, and that part for us was quite exciting. So both from a tech perspective and from a potential investment perspective, that was interesting. I think for me, it's just the more you look at it, the more you realize you have barely scratched the surface. So it's both exciting and challenging, because then you're wondering, I can't, it's almost, do I have, because you start to realize the potential. And I'll give you a very good an example. We've done minor damage. So minor damage is what in AI terms we'd call computer vision. So, you have a fender bender, take your images, computers say this is a scratch, is a dent, what needs to happen to repair, and we give you a settlement. But then you look at it and you realize we can actually do more extensive. So if you look at a typical use case that everyone can relate to is what you'd call on ChatGPT, where you sort of prompt and you say, I want a CV for a person who can do this and this and this and this and that. So you can actually look at a solution and build it in a manner that people are prompting. I'm saying what happened to my vehicle, the garage is saying, and there's a system somewhere that is already attributing what needs to be done to this. So you are moving. We initially thought we're only solving the problem for 20-30% of fender benders, and we realize, hang on, we can do this for another 30-40% of the vehicles. Of course, there's a 20% that will need manual intervention, but you're looking at all this and you look at the opportunity and you say, and then you start to look at what are the technologies that are required to make it work. So it's both exciting and I don't know that it creates a sense of fear because you're thinking, I need to do this, but then how am I going to do this? But yeah, I think for us, it's what excites us about the future is that we actually thought we would have a hard stop once we do this. Like, we've not even started. Yes, that for us is really the excitement. But of course, it comes with its downside. Because then, are you ready for that? And what does it take? Do you have the technologies? Do you have the resources? Because then this also, and these are one of the things you get also from LTW, London Tech Week. Maybe you might need to look at a bit of resource consultation, guys in the US, guys who've done this before, because you're really at the frontier of technologies. And some of these things have really not been done. And I guess that's what makes NVIDIA and the rest where they are, because then they're at the frontier of doing things that have not been done. One way that we used Azure to build faster, better is their libraries. So first, of course, we were lucky to get the initial startup credits from Microsoft. And what we found exciting was really the libraries that they have there for AI models, especially around computer visions for vehicle. And one thing, like for example, we could say some of the models they have are able to identify the left and the right side of the car, which we are still trying to figure out how that works, because those are really the same, not like the front or the rear. So that has really helped us, I would say, nearly accelerate our model development by, I would say, about 40–50%. Truly, without that, we would be in the trenches in terms of the work we're doing. One piece of advice that I ignored that I really found works is making sure you have the right technical team. When you're pushing boundaries on technology, you're the frontier of tech and the things that are happening, you really need to spend time in terms of recruiting, making sure that you have the right guys, from an initial foundational perspective in terms of their technology skills, but also the attitude and the willingness to learn, because you're always researching, you're always looking at new, better ways of doing things. So ignored a bit of that in terms of just the level of detail in the recruitment affected us a bit, lost about 2–3 months, and of course had to make some changes to the team, which is not always a very good thing, but we learned the hard way. You better spend 2–3 weeks in recruiting one person, but get the right person. Otherwise, you just will not achieve what you want to achieve.